Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Captain Frost and I think that Path of Exile 2 will be a complete reload of Playerbase for Path of Exile when it releases. It will be just a 180, complete 360, whatever you want to call it. It will be a mess and it will be a salvation. So what do I mean by that? It's not a secret when we saw our last two trailers for Path of Exile 2 that combat looks completely changed. And it probably will be changed way more than most of people think. And this is the main reason why we still don't see a bunch of crying on Reddit, a bunch of crying in other places. That's just because those people who, they probably don't really want Path of Exile to be in a healthy state. They still don't realize what happens with the game. So, what do I mean by that? When we saw in trailers that we do have now a multiple skills for every character, and that's what GGG was always intended for PoE2. They wanted us to have a bunch of main skills, and they want us to combine them, and they want us to have a class gameplay instead of skill gameplay. So how it basically feels currently, you have one main skill in the game, maybe two if you're a very specific build, and then you have your buffs and debuffs for you just to, you're using them either on bosses or for you to speed up. So it's nothing substantial, they don't do damage, you don't really want to put too many links for all those skills. And you have your main skill that deals most of the damage. It AoE clears and single targets simultaneously. This is your fantasy currently. You are playing a character that is specified on a skill. You're not playing class, you're not playing subset of skills, only one. And in Path of Exile 2, it's clearly will not be the case with how links, with how sockets on items work, with how now gems possess the ability to become 5 links and 6 links and not the items, not armor, not weapons. And we know that we will have something like 10 or 12, I can't remember exactly. We will have 10 or 12 or even more sockets to have potential 6 link gems skills. And this opens an opportunity for you to have a bunch of active skills. But why would you do that if you can have only one that already does all the work for you? It already one-shots the whole screen, it already kills the biggest boss, and you don't really need 2 or 3. Where would you put them if you have a need to place a totem, use an active aura, use a wall skill, use some other stuff? Where would you put that all those other skills? So probably GGG understand that meta with all the curse enemy, then place a totem on enemy, then use your war cry on enemy, then use your passive buff on enemy is not really healthy as well on pair with having only one main skill and only one skill that deals real damage. And the gameplay is very simplified, and it's not really in best spot, which many people in current Path of Exile community, especially who play softcore ladder, softcore trade league, they don't really understand that. So now we have a game with opened potential for having multiple skills, and the only thing that we need is the need to use them all. And how can you force a player, or not even force, but just make a gameplay decision that will make a situation where you're required to use many skills, because with only one you will not be able to do all the stuff that you would have been able to do utilizing many of those skills. You make skills either very one-dimensional, or you deleting your regular movement skills without cooldown, and then you're applying movement on your regular skills, on your main skills, and you're making a cooldown on skills. Or you're just making a cooldown on skills. You can even have your movement skill in the game, still present, but if there is 7 seconds cooldown on that skill, you probably want other skills that will give you more mobility, that will give you an ability to dodge other attacks of the enemy. And if you have already sockets where you can place those skills, it's not a big problem for you to just fill more sockets with alternative versions of skills that maybe do something similar. For example, we saw that monk style gameplay, and there was like hit on the ground, then there was like a kinda small blink skill where he was sweeping around him, and then there was another hit. So you don't even need to have completely diverse skills. You just need to have more of them than one and to have cooldowns on them, and they may be with exactly the same types, exactly the same tags, so they all can be attack, melee, and maybe they can only be used with two-handed axes, for example. And the even numbers can be 150%, 140% of your base weapon damage, something like that. So you wouldn't feel punished for using multiple of them when you need to put the biggest amount of damage on enemy, because they are all equal in your damage output, but you still need to use multiple of them. And this is a natural way to be forced into using them. And this is the only way how you can swap your player base from this pretty stupid version of combat where you have this one main skill and then just buffs and debuffs on the enemies with your other skills. That's the only way how you can push this audience for a multiple skilled combat, because our brain is quite stupid. It wants to be lazy. It wants to use as lowest amount of labor and of its power to do something. And whenever you have only one skill, yeah, it's way easier, but it is just way too simplified, and it is boring. And for the outside perspective, for people who don't play Path of Exile and for people who are familiar with games where you do have more than one skill for your class gameplay and more than one skill deals most damage of your class, it's not only one skill. For people like that, this will be definitely a very welcomed change in the game, because this way you can create some sort of a class for yourself and not just play a skill version of the build. So yeah, I think that Path of Exile 2 will be just a great opportunity for the developers to change this way of gameplay, change this way of combat, and it will alienate potentially from 30 to 40% of people who play the game currently. They will live forever. They will say, oh man, I was buying MTXs for all these 6 or 5 years or 4 years and the game was getting better. And now you're making this Path of Exile 2 and it spits in my face. I hate it. This combat is so bad. I want my one click button class that just one-shots everything everywhere. If you don't bring it back, then I'm leaving. And that's okay if they're leaving, because we need to get rid of people like that. And not even we as a player base, but developers need to get rid of them, because these people don't give an ability for our developers, for developers of Path of Exile, to change the game in the way that they think the game should be. And it's this particular amount of people definitely homogenized and just ruined a bunch of potentially good changes when it comes to slowing down combat speed to more adequate value. They are definitely hindered the ability of game to be more interesting to more people, and it was just these kind of people. They, at least in my own opinion, and I think I for sure know that grinding gear games have similar thoughts in their mind. These kind of people, they only make the game worse. and they cannot escape from their influence yet, because if you was to introduce some change like this in Path of Exile 1, then this part of people leave. You go to your shareholders, to Tencent, and you say like, yeah, we've lost 50% of our revenue, and they say, man, maybe you wouldn't do changes like that. It's kind of stupid to lose so much people. But whenever Path of Exile 2 comes out, or it is being announced, and even if 40% of people who play the game currently will leave, there will be 150 or 300% new players who will join the game, who will enjoy game more than if they would have done that in our current state of one button gameplay. They will enjoy the game more, they will stay in the game, they will be way healthier with their mentality about how games should evolve, and this will just make a win situation for GGG and for the game to be healthy, to be adequate, and to get rid of this combat issue that was in the game for such a long time. So yeah, that's what I think on this topic. I think that everything will be very good, that the combat will just resolve everything. Maybe there would be some problems, because to redesign this gigantic, enormous system metamorph that Path of Exile currently is, it is a very hard job. But I think that with time, maybe not in first league of Path of Exile 2, everything will be balanced and everything will be way more fun in terms of straight up gameplay in the game. Thanks for watching, hope you're having a good time, and goodbye.